"Mommy said you're my real dad." The little girl ended his date in one sentence. There are moments in life that arrive without warning, moments that tear through the ordinary and leave everything trembling in their wake. That afternoon in a quiet café in Portland, Oregon, the air shifted in a way no one at that table expected. A man who thought he had finally found a moment of peace, a woman who believed she was meeting a potential partner, and a little girl with innocent eyes. All of them sat on the edge of a truth ready to change their lives forever. And when the child opened her mouth, the world seemed to freeze before her tiny voice released the sentence that would shatter the man's carefully built life. "Mommy said you're my real dad. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected miracles, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more stories that touch hearts around the world." The day had started simply for Michael Reeves, a 33-year-old construction manager who had spent the last few years learning the art of rebuilding, not buildings, but himself. After a painful breakup in his mid-20s, followed by a long stretch of loneliness, Michael had only recently begun opening his heart again. When his co-worker introduced him to Hannah Porter, a gentle-voiced preschool teacher with a warm smile, he allowed himself to hope. Their first date had gone well, and the second one had brought laughter he thought he'd forgotten how to feel. So today, the third date, sitting across from her with the soft murmur of the café surrounding them, Michael felt cautiously optimistic. What he did not expect was the arrival of a small girl in a pink dress, led by an apologetic woman who looked tired, nervous, and deeply conflicted. The girl, perhaps 4 or 5, walked with uncertain steps toward Michael, her curls bouncing gently as she approached. Hannah looked confused but polite, assuming perhaps that the woman had mistaken him for someone else. But Michael felt something strange the moment the child's eyes met his. Something unsettling, something familiar. He brushed it off as coincidence. Children often had similar features to adults they weren't related to. But then the woman hesitated only a moment before whispering, "Ava, go on." The child took a deep breath and spoke the words that made the entire café fall silent inside Michael's chest. "Mommy said you're my real dad." At first, Michael couldn't breathe. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't be meant for him. His last relationship had been years ago. His ex-girlfriend, Tessa, had left him abruptly, cutting all contact. She had claimed she needed to start over somewhere else, and he had spent months drowning in confusion and heartbreak. Never once had she mentioned being pregnant. But when the little girl looked up at him with soft brown eyes, eyes that mirrored his own, Michael felt something collapse inside him. His throat tightened, his heartbeat thudded in his ears. Hannah shifted, her expression melting from confusion to concern. The woman standing behind the child finally stepped forward, her hands trembling. "My name is Brooke," she said quietly. "Tessa was my sister." Michael felt the café's soft hum fade as Brooke explained that Tessa had passed away 8 months earlier after a sudden illness she had kept hidden from everyone, including her own daughter. She had refused to reveal Ava's father's identity, claiming she didn't want to disrupt anyone's life. But shortly before she died, she finally confided in Brooke that Ava's father was a man named Michael Reeves from Portland. She gave Brooke the cafe name, the date, the time, everything, asking her to bring Ava here to meet him someday when she felt strong enough. Michael sat frozen as each word burrowed deeper. He had imagined many futures for himself, but never this one, being a father without ever knowing he had a child. Ava stared at him with quiet innocence, her hands clasped in front of her. She didn't know the gravity of what she'd said. She didn't know she had ended his date with one sentence. She didn't know she had reshaped a man's destiny. Michael tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. This wasn't something you could respond to with calm logic. This was a moment that demanded the raw truth of the heart. And when he finally found his voice, it quivered with fear, astonishment, and something profoundly deeper. An instinct that whispered, "This child is yours." The cafe smelled of warm pastries and roasted coffee, but Michael felt none of it. He reached out his hand slowly, not wanting to startle her, and Ava placed her tiny hand in his without hesitation, as if her heart already knew him. The warmth of her fingers made something break open inside him. Hannah watched quietly, understanding without needing to be told that this moment was not hers to belong to. There was sadness in her eyes, but also compassion. She gently touched Michael's arm and whispered that she understood if he needed to go. She excused herself with grace, knowing that life sometimes brings turns that cannot be paused for convenience. Michael watched her leave, grateful for her kindness, even in disappointment. As Brooke continued explaining everything she knew, Ava's birth, Tessa's final days, her regrets, her wishes, Michael felt an overwhelming mixture of grief, anger, and tenderness. Grief for the years he had missed, anger that Tessa had kept this from him, tenderness for the small life standing beside him, depending on him without even knowing what that meant. After the cafe emptied and the afternoon sun softened outside the windows, Michael finally asked Ava if she wanted to go for a walk. She nodded eagerly, gripping his hand with trust that warmed him to his core. They walked through the quiet streets, and he listened as she talked about her favorite colors, her kitten at home, and the way she liked to draw. Flowers, but always made them too big. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't expect anything. She simply existed in his presence, and somehow that was enough. In that walk, Michael felt something he had never felt before, an anchor settling into place inside his chest, a belonging he had been searching for without ever knowing it. Over the next weeks, Michael worked tirelessly to become part of Ava's life. Brooke helped him navigate the legal steps, the emotional challenges, and the uncertainties. Slowly, Ava began to see him not as a stranger, but as someone who showed up at her preschool events, someone who brought her strawberry yogurt, someone who tucked her hair behind her ear when she drew those oversized flowers. Someone who loved her. And Michael realized, with every bedtime story and every tiny hand in his, that his life had not fallen apart that day in the cafe. It had begun. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more real, powerful stories to those who need them. Before you go, comment below. Would you embrace a surprise that changes your life forever?